No Miggy, no Chase, no Garrett Tolley, no problem. Greg Larnard, Joseph Guthrie. Wait, this way, Joseph Guthrie
Yeah.
here on another edition of Chatted Up Sports. Tonight, we are going to be playing a little bit of a game that I used to play with the fellas on Feel Good Friday on The Word with G on ESPN Chattanooga. This is the first time for Joseph Guthrie. Let's get into it. We're going to fill in some sports blanks tonight. Hit it, Jay. Make sure you follow us all over social media at Chatted Up Sports, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Spotify, Apple, all of the good things. Follow us there. 5 stars, nothing less. Make sure you tell a friend. Also, if you could drop us a follow or a subscription on YouTube, that would be we would be incredibly grateful for that. Again, I'm Greg Larnard. To my, what is this? My left. There it is, left. I couldn't tell which shoulder was which. Joseph Guthrie, if you're watching on YouTube or the Spotify video. We're just hanging out with you for this episode of the show. The boys could not be there, but Jay and I said, hey, let's do a show. And what's going on very prevalently right now is the Eastern Conference Finals with my New York Knicks for the first time since 2000. I was just a wee fifth grader at the time, 10 years old. It's been a very long time since the New York Knicks basketball franchise has had any sort of relevant success. So it's exciting for me. And then on the Western Conference side, it's the Thunder, it's the T-Wolves. So that should be a good series as well. But I wanted to, what is it the kids say, Joseph? Keeping it a buck?
Yeah, keep it a buck.
We're going to keep it a buck with y'all today. Because, I mean, keep it real, I feel like would be more our generation. But I want to kind of be, I want to try to be hip, you know. I want to try, I got the 13-year-olds that I coach and, the college kids. So I always try to stay up with the lingo, with the sus and the riz and bruh and keep it on a buck and all those good things. So I want to keep it a buck with all y'all tonight. And just to tell you, as you've been listening, I'm sure if you're a constant listener, for those of you listening to the show, Joseph is not the biggest basketball fan. So we're going to keep it a buck with you on that end.
Right.
We're not going to get what?
Working on it.
Yes, working on it. While we're kind of doing this, like I'm learning a lot about college football over the last, 7-8 years since I've been living in the South, 8 years at this point, living in the South. And Joseph is getting a chance now, being around all of us NBA guys, to learn a little bit more about the NBA. And we appreciate him for that. But we are going to play a game. And we'll probably talk more about the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals on Thursday's edition of the show, or really Friday's edition of the show, because it'll drop then. I don't know if we're going to do it live or not. We'll figure it out on Thursday. Anyways, So I wanted to bring back a little something that we used to do on Feel Good Friday called Fill in the Blank. I figured Joseph and I, it's just the two of us, you and I. Make it if we try, just the two of us. We're going to play a little sports fill in the blank. Again, like I said, this is something we used to do on ESPN Lafayette back in the day, ESPN 1420, ESPN Chattanooga. I brought it there. We did there on Feel Good Friday a lot. Just a good way to kind of get a bunch of different sports topics together, put them in a pot, and have some fun kind of going back and forth and seeing what we want to, how we want to fill in these specific blanks. We've got some college football for you. We've got some NFL. We've got some basketball. And then we've got a couple of fun ones as well to maybe get to know us a little bit better and our personalities and whatnot. But I wanted to start with, I did this for you, Joseph. I wanted to stick in your lane first and foremost. And I wanted to talk a little college football.
Mm-hmm.
So let's fill in the sports blank when it comes to college football for this upcoming season. And the first one I'll read to you and the listeners as well is the best college football team. Again, for those people that don't know what this is, it's going to be, I'm going to read a statement. There's going to be a blank somewhere in there, and Joseph and I have to fill it in. Just going to fill it out or spell it out to y'all. That's how we're going to do it. So the first one up, we have the best college football team heading into next season is?
Oh, man. So realistically, I think there's a there's probably a case you could make for about 6 to 8 teams,
Mhm.
and you could convince me that they'll be the best team heading into the season. And part of that stems from the fact that we have so many teams that are starting a quarterback, whether that's a freshman quarterback or just a first year starter. And so we don't know what these players are going to be. We don't like, we have ideas, we have potential. We've seen stars and stat sheets. Like we saw a little bit of Arch Manning in the Mississippi State game last year, where he really got to play. Those instances in the Georgia game kind of felt more like packages versus him being just like, hey, go play quarterback. Um, Oregon starting a new quarterback, Alabama starting a new quarterback, Georgia starting a new quarterback, Notre Dame starting a new quarterback. Like so many of these teams, we don't know what the most important position on the field is going to be like. So I went in a couple of different directions, and I came down to two teams. One of those teams is a team that has a returning quarterback, and another team is a team that is starting a quarterback for the first time. And the team that's starting a quarterback for the first time is Texas, obviously, because really what it comes down to is Arch Manning. Is Arch Manning serviceable? Is he what he's been hyped up to be, or is he going to be what I think better than Quinn is the standard? If he's better than Quinn was last year, then Texas can accomplish everything that they want to this season. I mean, Ryan Wingo's back, DeAndre Moore's back. Like you've got players on this team. Yes, you've got to replace Kelvin Banks, and that's no fun. But you've got starts on the O line coming back. You've got starts in the secondary coming back. You've got two of the best defensive players in Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill Jr. Like they have dudes.
Yeah.
So Texas is just a shoe in. And I think it's the easy answer if someone was asked this question. Where my mind also went was Clemson. They're bringing back a starting quarterback in Cade Klubnik. He looks more comfortable under Garrett Riley. And those two freshman receivers that they started last year, Brian Wesco and the other one's name has slipped me, are going to be solid this year. They've got some solid pieces coming back on defense, and Peter Woods and Wade Wood as like they're returning their head coach, returning their OC, returning their DC. I think Clemson's going to be really good this year. So they're not one of those teams in the upper echelon of talent in terms of like they haven't stacked top 5 rosters. Like if somebody wanted to throw out Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia or Texas or these teams that are consistently recruited in the top 5, no arguments for me on that case because not going to lie to you, looking at Clemson, looking at Texas, I kind of weighed in on Alabama a little bit. We'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, Clemson was another team, and those are my two teams that I think could be the best team heading into this season. Obviously, we haven't touched the field yet, but Texas and Clemson.
Was TJ Moore the name you were looking for?
Yes. Thank you. I knew it was Moore, but I could not remember his first name.
I got you. All right. So, based on what you just said, it makes me feel like I'm just taking the low hanging fruit because the best college football team heading into next season for me is Texas.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, I wholeheartedly believe in Arch Manning. I am a huge fan. I think he's going to be an absolute dynamo. They've got the number 1 ranked recruiting class in 2025. They landed a top wide receiving transfer from Stanford in Emmett Mosley, who's got some good size, quick, explosive wide receiver. You mentioned Anthony Hill Jr. and All-American still there. Some of the other guys that you mentioned still there. Sark has done a really good job at building this program up. Obviously, you have to replace guys like Golden and Bond, and how are they going to go about doing that with the offense and always generally have a pretty awesome offensive line. The defense continues. It's just like it's never like a rebuild. It's always like a reload type of thing for Texas. And when you think of Texas, much like Alabama now that Nick Saban has made it into, it's a staple when it comes to college football. It's a name in college football that's really stood the test of time. They've got a lot of success. They have obviously a lot of pedigree there at Texas. So if you are a college football player, especially from the state of Texas, that is your dream school, most likely. Obviously, where it depends on where you grew up, but generally where your dream school would be the University of Texas. So to me, with everything that they've built there, they, to me, in my mind, have to be the number 1 college football team heading into next season.
I love it. And dude, like they're bringing back Michael Taff. Maybe I said his name wrong. Forgive me if I did. And Malik Muhammad in the secondary. Like it's hard not to say Texas because really, when you look at this roster and you look at this team, and then that number one recruiting class, your biggest question is like, well, is Arch going to pan out? And he doesn't even really, in my opinion, have to pan out like the way people think. Like he doesn't have to be a number one overall draft pick this year for them to have the success that they want to have. So yeah,
But
it's
I think he will be.
I think the potential's there. If we're getting into it a little bit,
I feel like you don't believe as much as I believe.
I don't think he's going to declare this year.
Okay.
I think Arch is going to play 2 years at Texas.
Okay.
Even
I don't hate it. Especially with NIL and everything
Mhm.
that you can get there at in college. Like, I mean, you look at what Shador was in college and the money that he made in college, it's more than he's
Yeah,
making in the NFL.
yep. He was, and I think just with who he is and who his family is, he can tap into what it's like to be an NFL quarterback at any time.
Yeah.
With his granddad, with his uncles, and then I know Cooper wasn't a quarterback, but played in the NFL. So like he has that wisdom around him that most other NFL or college NFL prospects don't have. So they have somebody in his corner that's like, hey man, the NFL's not going anywhere. They're going to be there. Like you can learn, you can develop, and you can enjoy playing at Texas. You don't have to feel like you have to leave like some of these other guys. And I kind of hope he does. I kind of hope he stays 2 years. Just
I hope so too, for the sake of college football and what it could look like. But if I paint you this picture of like Arch Manning goes out there, throws for what, like 3,500 yards or something like that, throws 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, runs a couple in, wins a Heisman Trophy.
yeah.
He also gets a chance because the Saints suck to go to his grandfather's old team with the New Orleans Saints. Like, I get it. I know, like, they're not the best franchise right now,
Mhm.
but I don't know, man. Like, I feel like that pull might be a lot, especially if he
Yeah.
accomplishes all of that. But you're right. If
Mhm.
he doesn't accomplish all that, I could certainly see him coming back.
Oh yeah. If they even if he wins a Heisman, if they don't win a national championship, the potential for this like don't get me wrong, Texas in 2025, incredible. Texas in 2026, my God.
Really?
Especially if Arch comes back and
Yeah.
some of these because if he comes back, that's your big domino. Because if he comes back, some of these other guys in 2026 might be like, they might pull what Ohio State did coming into last season, where some of these veteran guys are like, all right, we got a guy in Will Howard. We picked up some pieces and Caleb Downs and Quinshon Juggins. Like, let's come back and let's run this. Let's make this run for the national championship. And they did. So I think you could see that. And it's like you mentioned with NIL, I think it's something you'll see and you have seen a lot more from players is they're like, yeah, make a natty run, dude. Because no one
Mhm.
you'll have that forever. Like, yeah, you can go play in the NFL and do that. That'll be fun. But like, especially if you win a natty at Texas, oh God, dude.
Big. It's big.
You can do what you want in the city of Austin.
That's
You can do
right.
whatever you
You'll
want.
own it. You will
Yeah.
own it.
Yeah. But dude, Vince Young hasn't bought a beer in Austin since like '04.
But he's
There's no
paying top dollar on Broadway. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now they want their money back. But in Austin, legend. Legend.
Can't do any wrong. All right, let's move to the next one. We'll stick in college football. And this is one that's kind of near and dear to your heart. Miami will be blank with Carson Beck this year as their starting quarterback.
Oh man. Miami will be with Carson what their receiving core is. Because the more I think about last year with Georgia and with Carson, the more I think about 2023 Carson. Because 2023 Carson was a like first round draft pick quarterback. Like he was in that conversation because he had weapons and he had a run game. And then in 2024, you have Arian Smith, who's having to be a wide receiver one, who's really just kind of like an over the top burner guy.
Mhm.
And then Dylan Bell's good, but he's more of kind of like a gadget guy. He's not really somebody you want to have as like a number one or a number two. And then the O line wasn't great. And then your run game is just non existent. You're like bottom, I think 15th or 14th in the SEC in rushing, which is just unheard of for the University of Georgia. Like something they normally hang their hat on is just non-existent. So that creates a lot of pressure on a quarterback to make plays, and I think it is the result of the Carson Beck that you saw in 2024. So I think that version of him still exists, but what's Miami going to look like from a weapons standpoint? What are they going to look like from an O-line standpoint? And on top of it all, how healthy is Carson going to be? Like, is he going to be 100% when the season comes around? Is he going to have to wait until October? Because if he does, it might be too late. If you have to wait until October for Carson to start, you might not be in the best standing. So I have cautious optimism for Carson Beck at Miami because
Cautious,
I know that,
optimistic.
yeah, I know that 2023 version of him exists, but I don't know if how close to the 2024 weapons situation Miami's going to be. I have faith they'll be better on the O-line than Georgia was last year, but I don't know for a fact. So cautiously optimistic about Carson Beck at Miami.
Okay. I said Miami will be very good with Carson Beck this year as their starting quarterback. And you just alluded to something that I was hoping that you would allude to. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to you a little bit about this because
Yeah.
you mentioned Carson Beck in 2023 versus 2024 and how
Mm-hmm.
like different it was, correct?
Yeah. It was the turnovers mostly is like the amount of interceptions was, and then throw in the drop category there.
Yeah. Obviously that's huge. Obviously
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
drops and the weapons and things like that. It just things didn't work the way I think Georgia
Mm-hmm.
fans were expecting and anticipating it were to work
No.
in 2024. But you look at just Beck in his numbers in 2023, 72% completion percentage. 2024, 71% completion percentage. 2003, or excuse me, 2023, 28 total touchdowns. 2024, 32 total touchdowns. 2023, 6 picks. 24, 10 picks. 23, 9.5 yards per pass. In 24, 8.5 yards per pass. In 2023, a little under 4,000 total yards of offense. And in 2024, 3,784 yards of total offense. So, I mean, I get what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at all of the numbers, like Carson Beck, regardless of what was out there, and again, if he didn't have all those drops and the ineffective run game that was supposed to be
Yeah.
more effective, he could have had a better year in
Yeah.
2024 or 2023 than 2023. And still, it was pretty damn close.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I still think they're going to be very good. And I get what you're saying about the wide receiver and the weapons and things like that, because obviously they did lose some things there at Miami, but they have the top recruiting class in the ACC in 2025. They have a top 10 transfer portal additions. Jordan Lyle, incredibly explosive from the running back position. He's going to get more opportunities this year. He's pairing with Mark Fletcher, who that they kind of create that two-headed monster situation. And then you've got, in terms of the receivers, CJ Daniels, a former 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty. Shout out to the Flames, who took down Texas A&M in softball the other night. That was incredibly exciting and unexpected. And then they have JoJo Trader. Dude's a real smooth operator, playmaker on the outside. He was very solid in the Pop-Tarts Bowl this past year. And they've got 4 starters returning along the offensive line, dude. Like, for me, that
Mm-hmm.
is just a recipe for success for a guy who's a veteran quarterback who's been around, programs, and obviously a program like Georgia, played in the SEC and had a lot of success. I still think he's going to be able to have a lot of success there at Miami.
Yeah. And he won't play near the schedule that Georgia played
Yeah,
last year. Like the
exactly.
schedule, I'm not trying to downplay Miami's schedule. By no means that's not.
That's
It's
not
more of
the
like,
SEC, though. You're right.
well, I mean, Georgia played Clemson, Tech, and not just an SEC schedule. They played like 4 of the top 5 teams. And you play Clemson as well. Like it makes it tough, man. Makes it tough.
Yeah, it certainly does. All right, let's roll to the next one. Number 3, Georgia, and this is, again, right up your alley. You're welcome. Georgia will be blank this coming season without Carson Beck.
Oh man, there's a lot of potential here with Gunner. and it's kind of hard to nail down because I'm curious.
Fill in
Is
that
the O
blank for
line
me. Fill in that
is
blank. I need the blank to be filled in. You're not playing the
it's
game
such
for
a
me. You're getting into
it's
analytic mode, and I need you to fill in the blank and then explain.
sorry.
You're breaking the rules.
Okay, here we go. Georgia without Carson Beck will be better than they were last year.
Okay, I like it. Now explain.
Because it's hard for me to imagine that run game is any worse than it was last year. And it's hard for me to imagine the O line play is going to be worse than it was last year. On top of that, it's hard for me to imagine the receiver core is going to be worse than it was last year because they went out and they addressed that aggressively. Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Colby Young's back. They went and got CJ Wiley. They went and got Talon Taylor, who are two like highly ranked freshman receivers. They addressed this. We can't pass the ball down the field, and we're dropping passes that are hitting people in the hands aggressively. Noah Thomas was the leading receiver from Texas A&M. Zachariah Branch is electric.
Yeah,
Has been
yeah. Say
described
the
as
least.
by some as the Tyreek Hill, the new Tyreek Hill of college football. He hasn't lived up to that by any means.
Yeah.
But that was the buzz around him coming into his freshman year. So you've addressed that part. But have you addressed the run game and have you addressed the O-line? Are you going to be able to run the ball just on a consistent basis at all? I have faith in Kirby that they'll be good on defense because they're pretty much good on defense every year. CJ Allen's back. You've got two great freshmen in Justin Williams and Chris Cole playing linebacker. You've got a 5-star D lineman in Isaiah Gibson that's probably going to get some snaps, but Christian Miller came back. That's a huge get for you. Dalen Everett came back. That's a huge get for you. And then on the other side of corner, you're probably going to have someone between like Daniel Harris and what's his name? He just left me. He's a highly touted freshman cornerback. Was like the number one overall recruit on some platforms, but was definitely number one corner. His name has just left me totally, but he'll be fighting for snaps against Daniel Harris. And then,
Talking about for
yeah, you
Georgia?
lose. Talking about for Georgia, yeah.
Cornerback, you said?
Yeah.
All right, I've got it
His
pulled up, their depth chart.
Ellis Robinson. So, dude, I knew it was going to come to me.
There you go.
But yeah, you've got Ellis and Daniel fighting for snaps. I mean, at the safety position, you did lose Malachi Starks, and that is you don't need to downplay that loss. But you'll have some pretty good safety play with KJ Bolden, and then I think at the star position it's probably going to be Jonel Aguero, who played pretty well last year. So I feel confident about the defense. I don't know how well they're going to be from a depth standpoint, but that's something I have faith in because Kirby's just stacked recruiting classes. So I think Georgia will be better than they were last year, but I just don't know how much. I mean, a lot of people are like wanting to put it on Gunner, but when I think about Gunner, I think about those Georgia teams that surrounded Stetson, where it was, yeah, Stetson was a baller and Stetson was a gamer. Like he was just, if you needed to play, he got to the point where he'd make one. It took him a couple of years. We saw him not make those plays at times. But we saw what that Georgia team was with walk-on Stetson Bennett at quarterback. Like if they can do that, if they can somehow recreate that same recipe around Gunner, I think this team could be the best team in college football. They could also be 9-3.
Yeah.
So,
which is still not bad.
Which is still not bad.
9-3.
It is not the Georgia standard that they have created, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Against that schedule. So,
all right, for me, and I can't really go too much more in depth than our resident Georgia fan did, but I'll do my best to add just to kind of what he said, or at least reiterate some of the things. For me, Georgia will be still very good this coming season without Carson Beck. For some reason, I don't know if it's the name Gunnar Stockton. I don't know if it's the good old boy driving the old Ford or Chevy or whatever he had, the truck.
Single cab Ford, dude.
Yeah, dude. Like I just think that fits Georgia's vibe more than a guy like Carson Beck who wants to drive the Lamborghinis and stuff like that. Like that's just this feels like more of like hard nose, gritty, Kirby Smart. Like this feels like more of a Kirby Smart led quarterback, like you were talking about with Stetson Bennett. I really believe in him for some reason. And they added obviously the great weapon in Zachariah Branch. And when you mentioned Zachariah Branch, you talked about him like Tyreek Hill. I, I feel like he's just like more slender than Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
but incredibly fast. So my mind went, and you can tell me if this comparison is completely off base because I don't remember this guy playing in college, but I believe he played at Tennessee. It could be completely wrong. So correct me if
Mhm.
I am, please, so I don't
Mhm.
sound like too much of an idiot. But
No, no, you're
Tavon Austin,
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
That's
Okay,
that's the
but
first thing. As soon as you said that, I was like, I could see him and I could see the highlight tape and the body type, and I was like, that's actually a really good comparison. Tavon Austin, yeah,
yeah,
played at West Virginia.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Like Tavon hasn't been a great wide receiver in the National Football League by any stretch of the imagination, but incredible and kick returns, punt returns, things like that. And you get the ball in his hand, he can make some guys miss, and in his heyday, he can really have an impact. And I assume he had a great career at West Virginia. That's why he's
Oh,
been able to stick around so long. So you talked about him and his impact potentially in the wide receiver game. Again, I don't know if he's going to be returning kicks or whatnot, but I think, and from the depth chart, it looks like he is. So that
he
could be
probably, yeah.
also a huge weapon and
Mhm.
could change many a games for Georgia as well, where they don't have to do as much at offense. And obviously, Zion Branch coming in at safety. I know you mentioned Malachi Stark. Stark's not being there anymore, and Kirby always seems to have this team playing well. So honestly, I'm really not worried about this team going into 2025. Like I expect them to
Yeah,
be at the top of the SEC and would not be a surprise at all if they happen to not only get to the SEC championship but win it again.
yeah, yeah, and that's that's something in Pate's interview with Kirby when he asked about the 2024 season. Kirby said it was the best coaching job they've done, which of course he's inside the program. He's going to gas his guys. Like take that for what you will. But I kind of agree with him. I mean, it was one of the lower end Georgia teams that Kirby's had since he's been there, probably since like 2016, that 2016 team. Um, but yeah, I mean, this team has a lot of potential, but they still play Texas at home. They still play Bama at home. They get Ole Miss at home. They got to play Florida and DJ Lagway. They got to play Tennessee, third game of the season at Tennessee. Like, still a rough schedule, man. So we'll see.
Yeah, we certainly will. All right, let's move to the next one. And can kind of go in, a similar conversation that we had earlier, but the best quarterback in college football next year will be blank.
Cade Klubnik at Clemson.
Hmm.
Yeah. I feel like the go to answer for a lot of people is Drew Alar. And I think if we're talking specifically on like higher NFL season or higher NFL ceiling, I would be with you on Drew Alar. But I'm so cautious about Penn State. And I know they brought in some transfer receivers, but I said
Like
it last
you
year.
have to believe it. You have to see it to believe it almost. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, like I can see it on paper. I get where you're coming
Yeah.
from, but like until I
Yeah.
actually see it, I don't know if I actually believe it.
Exactly. And we said it last year when we predicted the Ohio State Penn State game. I said, James Franklin has to make me look stupid. And that's kind of the stance I've taken. So I'm going with Cade Klubnik, man. I think he's going to be really good under Garrett Riley again. And again, those weapons have gotten better. I think Cade Klubnik's going to have a really good year at Clemson. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm going best quarterback in college football, Cade Klubnik.
he's definitely matured. I mean, you just think back to that Orange Bowl against Tennessee, when he came in and played against was that Joe Milton, right? Joe Milton.
Yes, yeah, that
And
would have been Joe Milton, Tennessee.
Joe Milton really outplayed him. Tennessee outplayed Clemson, and Cade
Mhm.
Klubnik just kind of looked like a scared freshman out there. He's come a long way, and I know we all, maybe not you, but a lot of us here on the show, I know I did dogged, Dabo Sweeney and Clemson in general, but they found a way to have a good, successful season last year, and now they're utilizing the portal a little bit more, and they're still bringing in good players and going out there and recruiting at a high level, and it's just like I believe, like you said, that Clemson is going to sort of reassert themselves as one of the powers in college football this coming season. But my answer, much like your answer to the first question, talking about
Uh-huh.
Clemson, my
Uh-huh.
answer also has to pertain to the first question that we asked and the first blank that we filled in as well. The best quarterback in college football next year will be Arch Manning. Again, I don't know if it's the last name, but Texas is loaded.
Mhm.
I like Gunnar Stockton. I just believe wholeheartedly, given the keys to the car, that Arch Manning is going to be this. He'll live up to the hype in terms of the generational talent. Again, I get it's probably the last name that I'm buying into. No, it's definitely the last name that I'm buying into. And I'm sure everybody else is buying into it as well. I know there's a lot of hype. I know there's a lot of pressure, but like as you alluded to earlier, Joseph, that he's got that knowledge, he's got that pedigree, he's got that experience at his disposal. This is something that he grew up around. So
Mhm.
if you grow up around this and you're consistently exposed to it, I think it only really benefits you if you really want it. Like, I know you can look at some other guys in their lineage and guys that grew up around things, whether it's like, Michael Jordan's kids, the one I really think of like, they didn't pan out to really be anything in terms of basketball.
Mhm.
And now one of them's like dating or engaged into, to Scottie Pippen's ex-wife or something like that, which is just a crazy situation, if you ask me, but good for him.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
sure.
I really, really believe wholeheartedly in Arch Manning and what Texas has built. And I believe if Quinn Ewers wasn't there and didn't have the type of season he had last year, that Arch would have been able to go in there and done similar things to what Quinn Ewers was able to do. But this is a guy that's, it really strikes me as a guy that really works while he waits and has wanted to be there, has wanted to wait for his opportunity, has really worked behind the scenes. And I can't see another world in which he doesn't go out there and grab this opportunity. Again, he may not be the Heisman Trophy, he may not win the national championship, but I still believe that he's going to have a really good first year at Texas. So for me, the best quarterback in college football next year will be Arch Manning.
I don't hate it, dude. Because I mean, I think part of that answer stems from trusting Sark and trusting what he's put around Arch.
Yeah.
So I totally understand the buying into, and I don't think you're just buying into the last name.
I kind of am.
You think
Sort
so?
of. I just kind of like slightly. Like I do, from what I've seen out of him, he's incredibly talented.
Hmm.
But a lot of that in the less football knowledge, college football knowledge than I have than you do. Like I just I believe that again for everything that I just said. That he's around that a lot. He grew up with
Hmm.
it. Like that for me has rubbed off the right way for him, and it's
Yeah.
just going to make him all that much better as a quarterback and being able to handle the pressure of Texas and the SEC and then eventually the NFL.
Yeah. We'll
All right,
see.
so
It's gonna be interesting.
yeah, it certainly will. So there was an article, and some of these these questions I kind of got from this article that just came out
Yeah.
on Monday. Today's Monday, correct? We're recording this on Monday, like we
We
normally
are
do.
recording
Yes,
this on Monday. Yep.
it's Monday. It came out on Monday at 8
Mhm.
o'clock in the morning by
Yep.
David Hale on ESPN.com, and they were talking about different tiers of college football quarterbacks, and that's kind of what stemmed a lot of these questions for me and these fill in the blanks. So
Mhm.
they tiered the quarterbacks. So between tier two quarterbacks, which he had Sam Levitt of Arizona State, Baylor's Sawyer Robertson, Georgia Tech's Haynes King, and Iowa State's Rocco Becht, the best quarterback of this tier will be blank.
Oh man. Okay. Out of the four choices,
Yes.
I'm going. Okay. Out of the four choices, I'm going Sam Levitt.
Okay.
Um, because he already helped carry a under-talented Arizona State team to the playoffs and a Big 12 title. So if you've got somebody like that that's buying into your program that has that kind of talent and also has just a certain level of dog in him to be able to go out and just kind of elevate this team and elevate their ceiling. I'm going with Sam Levitt. I think Sam Levitt is that guy.
Okay. For me, I will fill in this blank. Out of all of those guys, the best quarterback will be Haynes King, a guy that you know well that pushed your Georgia Bulldogs
Yep.
very, very heavily
Hmm.
with Georgia Tech. I was not familiar with his game until that moment.
Hmm.
And this is a guy that next year he will have been in college football. That'll be his sixth year. playing college football. He started at Texas A&M. He was there for
Yep.
3 years. Obviously, didn't play a whole lot. Started to get some playing time in 2022, put up some decent numbers, and then transferred to Georgia Tech. Technically, as a sophomore, had a
Mhm.
really nice season, but turnovers and interceptions were his problem. 27 touchdowns to 16 interceptions. He cleaned that up in 2024, got better protecting the football, didn't throw for quite as many yards, but maybe got a little bit more conservative, and his completion percentage went way up, like 11% better
Mhm.
than it was the year before. 14 touchdowns, just 2 picks, but also is a guy that can get things done with his legs. The
Mhm.
last couple of years combined has over 1,200 yards, 21 touchdowns. So he will put up some numbers. Again, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how good Georgia Tech's football team is actually going to be.
Mhm.
You might be able to speak a little bit better to that, but just from what I've seen out of Haynes King, specifically
Yeah.
from that game and what I've read about him, and being, again, having a lot of experience being in college football and being
Yeah.
in the SEC specifically, and now the ACC, I just believe that he's going to have a really nice season for Georgia Tech.
Dude, I'm with you there. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of reasons why, and a couple of reasons I'm worried. Um,
Talk to me.
so
Educate, please.
I gained so much respect for Haynes King in the Georgia game last year, because you want to talk about somebody that's just playing with pure grit and pure just I'm going to be out here on the field regardless. I'm going to make a play. I'm going to do what I have to. That was Haynes King in the Georgia game last year. He plays tough, man.
Mhm.
The thing I'm worried about is that they lost Nick Singleton. Nicholas, yeah, Nick was it Nicholas Singleton? No, no. Anyway, they lost their leading receiver. He transferred to Auburn, and I'm kind of worried about that. But I'm also a little bit not, because I believe in Buster Faulkner, their OC, and I think he'll
Mhm.
find a way to scheme around them, because Georgia Tech also doesn't run a prototypical offense. They run more kind of like I don't want to say a spread option, but it's not quite just like a spread offense. So they can get creative. The way they run Haynes is very creative. Um, I love Buster Faulkner as an OC. He'll be a head coach somewhere in the next 2 or 3 years. So I'm a little worried about Georgia Tech. I don't know a whole lot about them defensively, but I know they're going to play with grit. I know for Brent Key they're going to be tough, and they're going to play tough, and they are going to hit you in the mouth. They'll be great on the O line. Brent Key's going to make sure they're great on the O line. They're a very interesting team, but I'm just a little cautious about like how good are they going to be defensively, and then can Haynes hold up for the stretch of the season with the way that they intend to play him.
So you were close. Nicholas Singleton is the running back from Penn State.
Yeah,
Eric Singleton
Eric.
Jr.
Eric Singleton. I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, no, that's the running back for
It
Penn State.
doesn't sound right. Yeah,
I was
that's
like, I
what I
know
thought.
that's not right. Yeah. So Eric Singleton was their leading receiver last year, transferred to Auburn. I'd be interested to see how they replace him.
You know what
He's
you got to
probably going to be
do?
back in Michigan, but
I've learned this trick from many a years working in sports talk radio, is that, like, when you're talking about a specific player and you can't remember their first name, just say their last name and just be like, yeah, that receiver Moore from wherever we were talking about before,
yeah,
and they lost
Clemson. And,
Singleton.
yeah. Dude, it's like
So many
I
names.
know it's like these names, and then like I'll run through so many, and then they just clash. And like I knew his last name was Singleton, but when I said Nick Singleton, because of Nick Singleton at Penn State, I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, that's not right, dude. There's so many players. There's so
Trust
many players in college football. So
I've done that many, many a times. All right, let's go to the last one from college football, and then we'll roll to the NFL. The first year starting quarterback I'm most excited about this coming year is like
hmm. Okay, I feel like this is easy for me. It's DeAndre Moore at Oregon. He was a highly touted recruit. Was committed to Oregon for a while. Ended up going to UCLA and playing. He flipped to UCLA. Ended up going and playing for Chip Kelly at UCLA. Didn't really work out for him very well, um, and he ended up transferring back to Oregon. Was there last year under Dylan Gabriel, so I think that gave him some time to learn. Um, and I think he's going to be much better for that, having sat behind a successful quarterback. Um, so I'm very excited to see Oregon as a product this year. Also,
Okay, so again, much like Texas and in an earlier fill in the blank, I'm going to take the low hanging fruit here, and for me, it's the first year starting quarterback. I guess you could say freshman starting quarterback. I'm most excited about this coming year is Bryce Underwood. I mean, this is a man who got a significant NIL bag to flip to the University of Michigan. It's reportedly valued at $10 to $12 million over 4 years, from LSU to Michigan, obviously, and there's a lot of hype, and we've talked about Michigan and with their win over Ohio State last year, a lot of momentum ending the season. Um, they were really a quarterback away last year from being really relevant. They just couldn't find a quarterback, couldn't figure their quarterback situation out there, and everything. The two guys that they threw at it just didn't work. They didn't stick to the wall. So having a guy like Bryce Underwood with all the hype surrounding him, I'm not a Michigan fan. If I had to choose between the two, I'm more Ohio State than Michigan. I never really liked Michigan all that much, but I'm excited to see what Bryce Underwood can do from a college football fan perspective. I really like his hype, everything that surrounds him, and I hope for Michigan fans' sake and the program that he is what they hope he can be.
I hope so because they upfronted a lot of money for that man to get him away from LSU. So I'm with you. I'm very excited to watch Bryce Underwood. Little small correction note for myself: Dante Moore, not DeAndre Moore. DeAndre Moore is a receiver at Texas. Dante
Oh,
Moore is the starting quarterback at Oregon. My
good
bad,
catch.
dog.
Good
It's
catch.
like another one of those. As soon as I said it, I was like, "That's not right. It's close, but it's not right." So yeah, uh, can we do honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Do you have an honorable mention? If you
Uh,
don't, it's cool. Dude, I will.
you go ahead. You take the honorable mention.
Julian Sayin at Ohio State. I'm very. It was between him and Dante Moore for me. Those were my like two picks, and it was neck and neck. But after seeing what Julian Sayin's going to have to throw to, and Brandon Ennis and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, it's kind of like, well, how good does Julian Sayin have to be when you're throwing to that? So like that's what made me pick Dante Moore as my most excited to watch. But yeah, I'm really really looking forward to seeing Julian Sayin in Ohio State this year. So
All right, let's go to our next topic. Let's go to the NFL. I don't know. Do you want to read these and I'll do the NFL, or do you still feel
yeah,
comfortable with me reading
no,
them?
dude, I'll read them. Yeah, you
Okay.
want you? I got it, dog.
All right, go for it.
All right. So moving on to the NFL, a boy just got paid, Greg, and I want to know how you feel. How do you feel about the 49ers paying Brock Purdy $265 million?
Hmm. So yeah, the 49ers paying Brock Purdy $265 million was blank an overpay. I'll say it. I'll say it
Oh,
that way. I like Brock Purdy. Look, I'm happy. I'm not upset with anybody getting their bag. I just don't know if Brock Purdy is that dynamic playmaker that's worth a boatload of money. And again, I know it's not like top tier quarterback money, but again, I understand you get paid for what you do and what you've done, and he's still got Christian McCaffrey there, but he's got like a weird Brandon Ayuk. That situation's not good. An aging George Kittle.
yeah,
I don't know exactly what Ricky Pearsall is going to be. Obviously, Juwan Jennings is still there, Tennessee's finest. And the defense, they've got Fred Warner, but they're not as good as we've seen in the past. The offensive line is getting old. So for me, if I were the 49ers, I get you probably had to pay him, kind of like the Cowboys had to pay Dak, but I would have let Dak walk and tried to do something different with what they had and the money and things like that, because I think you could see the ceiling for a guy like Dak Prescott. I sort of think you can see the ceiling, and I just don't think it's going to get a whole lot better with Brock Purdy. And I understand that sometimes it's even hard to just find a system quarterback. Like Jimmy G wasn't terrific. He was decent, but he wasn't terrific. So I don't know. I think it was a little bit much for a guy like Brock Purdy. But again, happy he got his bag.
okay. Hey, dude, I respect it. I'm glad he got paid as well. So you're much more tapped in with NFL for me. So I'll let you give the long thoughts, and I think it was 260 because it was over 5 years, right?
Mhm.
265 over 5. I think it was an average deal. Like I don't think it was an overpay. I don't think it was an underpay. I think it was a like a right at median deal for Brock Purdy, because I think if it's Brock Purdy with any other quarterback or with any other head coach, I think maybe it's an overpay. But I think with Kyle Shanahan and the offense that he wants to run, we've seen that he can operate it, and we've seen that Purdy's kind of comfortable with Shanahan. So I think in that aspect, it seems like a fair deal. Obviously, they're not going to have the same level of weapons as you just talked about. The Brandon Ayuk situation's weird. George Kittle's not getting any younger. Ricky Pearsall was good at Florida. We don't know what he's going to be as the wide receiver one wide receiver two for the 49ers. So I think it's an average deal, because he has Kyle Shanahan in his corner. If this was like Brock Purdy on the Giants, I'd probably say it was an overpay. So I'd probably be with you there. So I'm going to go median deal.
Okay.
Move, moving on, Greg, sticking with the NFL, the most underrated quarterback in the league is blank.
Okay, the most underrated quarterback in the league right now. There was two guys that came to my mind when when we asked this question and when I wrote this question down. I think they're both in the NFC North. The first one I came to my mind was Jared Goff. He's a guy that really doesn't get a lot of flowers. He's not a guy that's dynamic outside the pocket, and he's not like a Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger that can kind of get on the move and hurt you downfield like that. He is a play action type of guy. And yes, you need to put good pieces around him for him to be really, really effective. But still, he's still a very good quarterback in his own right. And he's put up really insane numbers, and he's gotten better every single year over the last really over the last 4 years since he's been in Detroit. Like, I know everybody wants to talk about the offensive genius that is Sean McVay and the Kyle Shanahan and this, that, and the other thing tree, but he really wasn't able to get a. I know he got a lot. He got to a Super Bowl, with the Rams, and he had some really good years with the Rams, but it kind of fell off over the last couple of years. And it just seemed like that marriage was sort of falling apart. And it almost felt like he just sort of got disposed of to Detroit. And he's made lemonade. He's made, what's the saying? He's made
Made lemonade with lemons?
there something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he's made the most out of that situation. And where
Yeah.
he thought he was just sort of getting dumped in Detroit, he's really made the most of it. And Dan Campbell's been a great fit there. And they seem to have gelled. And obviously, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. I'm really curious to see how that offense is going to run without him now. And the other name that kind of came to my mind, and I don't mean to steal any of if you had another one, but I just wanted to mention the two that I thought of off the top of my head,
Mhm.
was a guy in Caleb Williams. Is the most underrated quarterback in the National Football League because obviously he came in with a lot of hype, a lot of fanfare from USC and
Mhm.
whatnot, but his stats didn't really back it up last year, and they seemed like they had a lot of talent on paper, and it seemed a little disappointing. But the offensive line was an issue, and he was constantly under duress. And for what he dealt with, I thought he had a really nice year, and you could see the growth throughout the year, even though Chicago didn't win as much as they wanted to win. They have an improved offensive line. They've got some additional weapons out there. They drafted a guy like Luther Burden. He, to me, is very underrated because he didn't have the great stats that everybody was anticipating him having as a number one
Mhm.
overall draft pick. But to me, he's going to have those type of numbers moving forward. And to me, he is going to be the first 4,000-yard passer in Chicago Bears history over the next 3 years at some point, if it's not next year.
Yeah, I mean, I love both those answers. I feel like if somebody can get Caleb to that level, it's going to be Ben Johnson.
Exactly.
And if I have to believe in
That's your
somebody,
boy.
I'm going to believe in that combo, man.
Yep.
Because my answer was Jared Goff, and part of that was for the reason you said, and I won't elaborate on it too much because I felt like you covered it. He was sent to Detroit to die, more or less. Like it felt like when he got traded and Stafford went to LA, it was like McVay got his guy, Jared's going to the graveyard. And he has done everything but die in Detroit. So yeah, I think Jared's right there as the most under one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm with you. Yeah, that was chef's kiss of an answer, dog. Uh, Moving on to the most overrated quarterback in the league. The most overrated quarterback in the league is blank.
It would have been Derek Carr if he didn't retire. Because look, that man made a whole heck of a lot of money and really didn't live up to any sort of hype. Now I know I really believe that that injury that he had with the Raiders when he was kind of on that MVP type of season really hindered the rest of his career. He looked a little skittish after that, but he's retired. He's no longer in the league, so I'm not going to go with him. This may seem like low hanging fruit, and I'm sorry if you take this answer as well, and it might be a little boring if you do, but I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. This is a
Oh,
guy that came in with incredibly high expectations out of Clemson. Um, Everybody thought, hey, he's going to be the next generational type of quarterback in the National Football League. He's going to turn Jacksonville around. He's going to make them relevant. And he's had one playoff appearance in his time in Jacksonville, has made one Pro Bowl, and has thrown for 4,000 yards just twice, but barely. He's not been good protecting the football. He led the league in interceptions his first season with 17, and everybody's like, "Well, so Peyton Manning did that as well." Well, I mean, it hasn't really gotten much better for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, and to me, just he's kind of overrated at this point. I mean, I like Trevor. I hope he turns it around, but at this point, to me, he's the most overrated quarterback in the National Football League.
interesting. I'm a little bit of a Trevor fan. Like I'm
I
pulling
like
for him
Trevor.
hard.
I'm
Jackson.
pulling for him as
Like,
well. I want him to do
yeah.
well, but like I just don't love what he's done thus far. His body of work doesn't impress me the way it should have coming out of college.
Okay. So sticking with the theme of that wasn't my answer,
Okay,
by the
good.
way. Sticking with the theme of first overall picks. My most overrated quarterback in the league is Kyler Murray.
Okay.
He was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was a Lincoln Riley product, man. Like, but I don't think he's been better than Baker. I think he's been average. I mean, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions the year before that, but he got hurt in 23. So that's kind of throw that aside. 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 22. Like, he's just been okay. And I know it's Arizona and they haven't been great around him, but like, he was a Heisman winning quarterback. He's a great athlete, but he's just not lived up to that first overall Heisman winning quarterback. He he hasn't lived up to that, in my opinion.
Mm,
So I think my most overrated quarterback is probably Kyler Murray.
okay.
So
It's fair.
yeah, yeah. Well, moving on to the next NFL question. My favorite player of all time to watch not on your favorite team is blank.
Of all time.
But not on your favorite team.
Yeah, not on my favorite team. That's kind of a tough one. I'm gonna go recency biased here
Yeah.
with a guy who's playing in the league right now because I love his demeanor. I love his makeup. I like his swagger a lot. And it's gotta be Joe Burrow. I love watching this man sling the football. I hope and pray that they find an offensive line combination that will properly protect him. He's got weapons there. He's always been fun. Got to his Super Bowl. I hope he wins one like he won a national championship at LSU. I was there covering them when I was working in Louisiana. It was just so much fun to cover them. So my answer is going to be Joe Cool. I love Joe. I love Joe Burrow. Watch him sling the pill.
Okay. Dude, I'm always Joe Shiesty, man.
That's right.
Like when he came out with Burrow spelled
Yes,
Eaux,
that was cold.
just immortalized himself forever
He
in
gets it.
LSU. Like so this oh man, this is kind of a loaded fill in the blank for me because I don't have a favorite NFL team. Like I enjoy the NFL as a product, but I don't have a favorite NFL team. So I came up with two answers. I gave one that's no longer in the league and one that is still in the league. Different positions. My no longer in the league, and this is actually just recent, was Julio Jones. Man, I mean, he was an absolute menace. He was a monster. He was just his presence was felt. Like you've seen the video where Larry Fitzgerald is talking to I think Kyler Murray, and he points out Julio, and he's like, "You're going to see some stuff today, man. Like that dude's one of one." And there's a reason. He was insane on the Falcons. Just full big body, felt like a complete receiver. I always loved like I wasn't a Falcons fan,
Mhm.
but when like prime Julio was playing, I felt like one because I was just like, yeah, I feel like I have to watch this. And then my favorite player to watch that's in the league is Josh Allen. And it's part of the reasons that you've criticized Josh Allen for the superhero ball. Like he feels like one of those players that he's going to do what he has to do and he's going to put his body on the line. And then also just seeing clips of him with like Bob Does Sports, he felt like he'd be so much fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like doing the Buffalo thing, forcing them to finish their drinks. Like, yeah, I'm going to say I love watching Josh Allen. And I think part of me also that comes from having a soft spot for Buffalo, wanting to get over the hump and win a Super Bowl for the first time in a long time is where that stems from. So, yeah, favorite, Julio and Josh Allen, big fans of both. So, to wrap up our NFL segment here, we're going to go the blank are going to surprise a lot of us this upcoming season.
I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. As much as
Okay.
I hate to have this answer be the answer that came to my mind as I was kind of thinking about this question,
Mhm.
for all the reasons I mentioned with Caleb Williams, you mentioned with Ben Johnson being there now, I really believe that they're going to surprise some people this year, and they're going to make a push to the top of the NFC North, and they're going to push a lot of people, and they're going to surprise a lot of people, and I hate that. And I hate that the Chicago Bears are going to have a 4,000-yard passer in their career because I love to throw that stat in Chicago Bears faces. Now, I don't know a whole lot of Bears fans because I'm not from the Midwest or anything like that. But my cousin's new husband is a big Bears fan, and every time I see him, I remind him of that fact. So shout out to you, Shane, if you ever happen to listen to this episode. But I believe in what the Bears are building. I truly
Mhm.
do. As a football fan, throwing my Packer bias out the window, I do truly believe that the Bears are building this thing the right way. Caleb Williams will have success. He's got a number one wide receiver there. They've done a lot of things in the offseason to help him out. I'm sorry that my freaking video is a little shaky here. Trying to maneuver myself and get myself a little bit more comfortable.
Mhm.
I just believe in what they're doing. So to me, the Bears are going to be a team that surprises a lot of us this year.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I'm really intrigued to watch what Ben Johnson does with Caleb Williams. But I did not go with the Bears as my answer. I kind of went with a team that some people might hear this and say, well, that's not really a shock if they're good. But I think it's going to be the Bucks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. Um, I like Baker and I like the weapons coming back. Chris Godwin's coming back. I like Bucky Irving a lot. Um, I think the Bucks could build on what was a surprise year last year. Obviously, when the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, it was like, oh, the NFC South is Atlanta's, and then they ended up fumbling that away. So I think the Bucks will build on what they've accomplished last year, and I think they could be the surprise team of the 2025 season.
Yeah, I really like that answer with the Bucks, and Baker's going to build, and bringing in the weapons that they did for him, and they just have a solid franchise there. And again, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
surprised a lot of us last year. I really thought the Falcons, it was their year to lose, but shout out to them, they did it.
I feel like Miggy's going to be a little disappointed. Neither one of us picked the Falcons and Michael Penix.
Yeah,
Does it feel like everybody's expecting them to be? I mean, I know they drafted really well. But
did
that's
they?
just the draft.
I don't know if I believe in their draft, if I'm being fully honest
Okay.
with everybody. Like, I like the
Mhm.
pass rusher that they got out of Georgia, but like, as I've reiterated about James Pierce Jr., and again, I hope I'm wrong, but if
Mhm.
that dude couldn't have the biggest impact, and I know some of the numbers in the analytics say differently, but just watching him play week in and week out, I didn't feel his impact a lot, especially in the biggest games. I'm a little hesitant that you put him in that type of situation that they don't already have an established pass rusher, that he's not going to be successful in the NFL. especially like right away, have the immediate impact. Maybe he will eventually. And again, I hope I'm wrong about this, but just sort of my feeling on that.
Okay. I respect it. I respect it. We'll see. They're very intriguing this year.
Yeah.
For sure. The Falcons are very intriguing coming up. So,
Want to
but
roll
man,
into the NBA?
yeah, let's do it.
All right, team me up because I know you don't want to take much
Yep.
of the NBA
Yep.
here.
I got you. I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna tee you up for basketball, and then we'll close out with like 2 or 3 out of the 5 fun ones because
Yeah.
that's gonna be cool.
Okay.
Okay. So moving on to the NBA. Obviously the conference finals are set. So naturally, the question of the day: the most important player for each Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals team is blank.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. And obviously the Pacers are probably right up there. They're the team that I hate the most in the NBA alongside the Heat. Like it's 1A, 1B. So this series has a special place of hatred in my heart, especially that man Reggie Miller. Can't stand that dude for what he used to do to the Knicks. The last 2 series that the Knicks have played the Pacers in the playoffs, they've knocked us out. They've ended our seasons. So I really want to get this one. And I wholeheartedly believe that the New York Knicks do have a more talented roster, again, as long as everybody stays healthy, than the Indiana Pacers. I know the Pacers have been playing some great basketball, but I do believe in the Knicks. And so that being said, starting with the Knicks, the most important guys to me, obviously the low-hanging fruit is Jalen Brunson. He's the most clutch player in the NBA, is voted upon, by the NBA or whatever the awards this year. He's averaging 29 points in the postseason so far. But I'm going to take his teammates, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. OG, since he's gotten to New York, has been an absolute game changer for this team from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. And in the postseason, he's putting up 16 points a game and he's shooting 36% from three. I love what he does from an offensive defense perspective, 3-and-D type of guy. And then Bridges, for the same reason, the length, the defense, and his ability to shoot the mid-range and the three-pointer as well. Lethal from the corner, an awesome defender. You saw him make a couple of huge plays to end the games against Boston in the first 2 games of the postseason. To me, those are the 2 most important guys that I'm looking at in this series, X factors, if you will. And on the other side of things, for the Indiana Pacers, this was kind of a tough one because they don't have a lot of guys that really go out there and, they don't have a Jalen Brunson in terms of a guy who scores a lot. So for me, it's going to be Tyrese Halliburton. How does he play? To me, he's the best player, the most well-rounded player on this Indiana roster. It's going to be very important and vital for him to play really good basketball in this game. And to me, he's their go-to guy when it comes to scoring. I know Pascal Siakam scores a little bit more in the postseason than he does, but he scores and he facilitates, and that's going to be huge if Indiana wants to have success in this series against the Knicks. So I'll go over to the Western Conference Finals now, and I'll start with the T-Wolves in this matchup against Oklahoma City. When I'm looking at both of these teams, and again, I'll start with the T-Wolves. I'll take the low-hanging fruit. I didn't take the low-hanging fruit when it came to the Knicks with Jalen Brunson, but I'll take it with your boy, the Georgia Bulldog, Anthony Edwards. He's got to be fantastic. And I know he's had a Robin to his Batman with Julius Randle, and he's played some really good basketball. And as a former Knick, I'm really happy to see him having a lot of success because I always liked Julius Randle. I liked his game. He just always he never really felt comfortable in the postseason in New York. Now he's in a lesser place in terms of a market with the T-Wolves. But I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards. He has to be the man in this series. And Oklahoma City has an incredible defense. They're going to do what they have to do with Lou Dort and the Williams brothers or whatever to try to shut him down. But he has to be good. He has to be better than those defenders for Oklahoma City. And on the Oklahoma City side, I'm going to go with Chet Holmgren. I think he could be potentially a bad matchup for a guy like a Rudy Gobert or a Naz Reid, who's going to have to come out and extend a little bit to guard him. And he's quicker than a guy like Nikola Jokic, who they just, excuse me, they didn't play Denver. But regardless, Chet Holmgren is a guy that can, again, stretch the floor, score the basketball, rebounds at a high clip. And they're going to have to kind of pull him out, and they don't really want to have Rudy Gobert away from the basket. So again, it'll be interesting the way Minnesota sort of defends Oklahoma City. So for me, those are the four guys that I'm looking for at this series that I think will be the most impactful in each game for each team.
Okay. Okay. Beautifully articulated. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I was just, you know, my answer is going to be Ant.
Of
Like,
course.
just go dogs, baby. just, just,
I,
just
I
messing. Yeah.
I did that for you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But yeah, so I'm gonna let your answer speak for itself there. I'm gonna move on to our next fill in the
Mhm.
blank basketball, which I actually do have an answer for. So
I
MJ's
was hoping
jersey.
you might.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. So MJ's jersey from the 92-93 Bulls was just sold for $2.6 million. If money was no object, the player's jersey I'd pay for would be blank.
For me, it would be a Patrick Ewing jersey from the 90s, like a vintage, like Patrick Ewing jersey, probably from 94 when they went to the NBA finals against the Rockets and lost. That's
Mhm.
who I would pay money for because Patrick Ewing was my guy. He's the one of the reasons why, obviously, other than my dad, but one of the big reasons why I fell in love with the New York Knicks. I loved watching his game. I was a center growing up, so I always tried to emulate his post moves and things like that. So for me, I would pay for a Patrick Ewing, like a blue Patrick Ewing Knicks jersey.
Okay. Okay. I love that answer. Um, it might be kind of basic, but like if money was no object, I think I'd go game worn Kobe. Game worn Kobe jersey. Maybe
From the
if I could
night he
get
scored like 81.
yeah, I was about to say the night he dropped 80, I think I'd choose that jersey.
Yeah.
Not just because it was like just because of what Kobe embodied, man, and
Yeah.
the Mamba mentality and like using that and how you attack life. I'd go Kobe as
Eight,
much as go ahead
8 or 24.
24. Yeah, probably 24.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I'd do 24. Um, yeah, if money was no object, I'd have a framed like game worn Kobe jersey because it's just I don't know, man. I feel like on days where I wouldn't really feel like giving the most, or where I'd just be like, I'm just tired. I just don't want to do anything. That could be something I could look to and be like, I'm gonna get off my ass. Hang on, Kobe want me to get off my ass. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going with the Kobe jersey. It's a monument, man. So
Yeah. No doubt.
getting back to current NBA, the most disappointing team in the NBA playoffs was blank.
This was easy for me. The most disappointing team, and some teams will, some people would say probably Boston because, obviously they had an incredibly talented team, but you can look to the Jason Tatum injury to say, well, that really shifted the series. I could argue that the Knicks kind of almost had a stranglehold on this series, anyways, even when he was healthy, even when he was going off in that game in which he tore his Achilles, they were going to win that game anyways. So to me, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers. The way that they're currently constructed, had a number 2 overall seed this year, looked like they were absolutely rolling. I know they had some injuries going into the postseason. They weren't at full health, but the fact that they sort of just like laid down and died against the Pacers really spoke volumes to me. So to me, the most disappointing team in the playoffs was the Cavs.
I'm with you. Like not even, and we didn't talk about this pre-show, guys. Like we didn't set up our answers. These are just as they come. The Cavs was my answer. The year that they had and the way that Donovan Mitchell was playing, like it's tough to see them go out like they did against the Pacers. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with the Cavs. And then to wrap up our NBA segment, man, the most surprising team in the playoffs was blank.
The New York Knicks.
Really?
Yes.
You
Because
think so?
I didn't anticipate them competing the way that they did against Boston. I thought, cool, they're going to win this series, the first round series, and they got a fight from the Detroit Pistons, but I wholeheartedly didn't anticipate them beating the Celtics. Even without Jason, obviously with Jason Tatum, I I don't know, I just didn't anticipate them beating. I thought they maybe matched up a little bit better with the Cavs, so I was hoping they'd get that matchup, but I'm just really surprised that they beat Boston and they beat them with Tatum and Brown.
Okay. I really didn't expect you to pick. I didn't expect you to pick the Knicks. I kind of thought maybe you would expect not that you would expect them to win the finals, but maybe put up a little bit more of a deeper run, have a deeper run than last year. So a little bit surprising. But I went with the Pacers. I mean, that the way that they made the Cavs kind of lay down, it was not something I expected from them. I kind of thought they do, and Tyrese Halliburton's been great, but like feels like he's kind of elevated a little bit during the
Mhm.
playoffs. And if he keeps that same momentum, that's going to be huge for them going into the next series. Um, but yeah, I went with the Pacers for the most surprising team in the playoffs
That's a
because I
good
did
pick
not
as
expect
well.
them to. Yeah, I did not expect them to kind of run the Cavs like that because I think that speaks to their mentality going into the series. And I know we talked about the Cavs being hurt, and that's a factor. It is, but just the mentality that they attacked that series with is something that I think kind of speaks a lot about how that team feels about themselves. So yeah, going with the Pacers, and
Yeah,
that is the NBA, man.
that
That
is
is
the
the
NBA.
NBA playoffs as they currently sit on a Monday night at 10:12 p.m. when we're recording this. Which we're not done yet. We got some fun things left. We're not going to do all 5 of them, but I figured we'd pick a couple. So what
You
do you
pick
think?
one. You pick one, and I'll pick one. How about
That's
that?
what I was about to say. I was about to say you want to pick one, and then you'll dude. We're in sync, baby.
Yeah.
So, dude, my answer. This is easy for me because it's something I've thought about a lot. It's something I will do. I'm not going to say I would like to because it's going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. Uh, Mine was I'd really like to go and visit blank stadium, ballpark, arena, sports venue. Um, my blank is Death Valley at night in Louisiana.
Mm.
I have specifically if they're playing Alabama. I have wanted to go to an LSU night game for as long as I can remember. That really ramped up when I met my buddy Logan. Shout out Logan. Um, he's a huge LSU fan, and he talked about like what it's like to be in Tiger Stadium, to be in Death Valley, like at night. They showed up on the Richter scale for a game. It's just that level of environment. I've been in some awesome environments, don't get me wrong, but that just sounds like something that sticks with you. And it's something as a college football fan, I've just wanted to experience. So give me LSU night game hosting Alabama. I will go. I just haven't yet.
I'll tell you what. Death Valley at night is pretty cool.
Oh God, dude, I'm so jealous.
Now, I didn't go specifically like hey, it was night when the game started and it was night when it finished. I went to like a what's that window? The late
Three
afternoon
thirty,
game, yeah.
3:30.
And then by the end of the game, obviously it was dark,
Yeah,
and it kind of turned into a night-ish game. And it was a game during the 2019 season when they had that perfect season with Joe Burrow and whatnot, and they played Auburn,
mhm.
and Auburn played them with Bo Nix really tough.
I
That was the
remember that game.
closest game they had all year.
Yeah.
So it was cool. That was the only time I ever went to an LSU football game. I always wish I went to the box.
Uh-huh.
And I always wish I would have gone to a basketball game. Like that's something
Yeah.
I would really like to go to Thompson Bowling Arena as well,
Mhm.
TBA, or whatever they call it now, Food City Arena or whatever the F it
Yeah, what
is. I don't know. All the corporatizing things, but it's always going to be TBA to me. So for my answer, this one's not. It's in a different vein than yours. Obviously, yours is an environment thing. You don't
Mhm.
really care much about LSU or Alabama. You're a Georgia guy. Mine is in the same vein as that. Like I don't really care about this team, but it's just such an iconic venue
Yeah.
that I have always wanted to go to Wrigley Field and
Oh,
experience
yeah.
Wrigley Field. I have
Yeah.
experienced Fenway, which is an incredible. I've been there a couple of times. Awesome experience, but I feel like as a baseball guy that I am, I really need to go to Wrigley and experience Wrigley in its entirety. Now, I've been outside of Wrigley during the winter time. I've been in some like the gift shop outside the stadium or under the stadium, whatever it is, but I've never been to a game there. So to me, I'd really like to go and visit Wrigley Stadium or
Oh,
Wrigley
dude,
Field. Wrigley Field.
that that's a I feel like that's one of the iconic venues in sports, like
Yeah.
not just baseball. So yeah, I'd be down. Put that one on my. I could have a list of these things, man. It's hard to pick just one. So
Yeah, it is. And I know Chase and I have talked about this on this podcast many a times over different episodes, but if you haven't gone to the College Baseball World Series, that's another thing that would be on the bucket list. I think should be on the bucket list for a bunch of people. And I also want to add on there that I would, now that I'm in softball, would really like to go to the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that would be a
So
cool experience.
we, funny enough, that Colorado trip I took last year kind of drove through Oklahoma City in May. So it was softball time. Like it was the Women's College World Series was happening. I was like, stop for a game. I'd be down.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
down.
I would love to make a trip out there and do that. And like low key, like I got to look at my weekends and see if it lines up, and maybe I might make a trip out there. I don't know. We'll see.
Go for it.
All right, my last one that I am going to pick. Okay, I'll go with this one. The skill I wish I was better at is.
Oh gosh.
I'll give you a second to think about it because I know which one mine
Yeah.
is.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
the skill I wish I was better at is singing. I really, really, and anybody who's I've talked to at any length about something like this, like knows that this is always my answer. Like, if I could be reincarnated with one skill that I don't currently have right now, it would be to be able to sing and to sing well. Like, if I could make money singing, like that would be awesome. But like, if I had everything that I still have right now and all my skills, and you just gave me like a better voice that like I could carry a tune, and like if I sang karaoke, they'd be like, oh, like this guy's pretty good. Like that would even be fine with me.
Yeah.
Like I just don't have that level of a voice. I just love to sing. I don't have much shame when it comes to singing. If I know the words, I'm going to sing it. I wish I were better at singing.
Oh, dude, I feel that. Like that. Not stealing your answer, but yeah, that would be such a cool. That would be such a cool skill to have. Like my sister in law can sing really well, and I'm just like I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm a little jealous. That just seems like it'd be cool to just be like walk because she would be walking around the house doing like house chores and just bust out some like song she's listening to. I'm like, is that what it's like to just have that talent to just be able to just sing like that at all times? I don't know. It would be really cool. Mine's in the same vein, but not the same answer. Mine would be the skill I wish I was better at is playing an instrument, specifically two instruments, the guitar and the piano. If I could learn to play the piano, well, I say if I could learn, if I would take the time to learn to play piano, that would be my like go-to instrument. I really, really like piano music. Oh shit, he's busting out the guitar. Did you knock your webcam over? I think he froze on us, guys. I don't know. Greg, can you still hear me? He might be gone. Guys. But anyways, yeah, playing the piano. I'd love to play the piano. I really like piano music. Kind of listen to it when I work. So that's where I'd go, is playing the piano. And guys, it looks like Greg was willing to show us his guitar to the brink of his webcam's death, maybe, because I think his webcam has. Oh, he's back. Nice.
Yeah.
Can you play?
No, I can't. I impulse bought this bad boy. When one of my friends in Connecticut was a guitar player, and I can't. I tried for like a couple of months, and I could not get the hang of it. But I impulse bought this bad boy. It's always sat right behind me. I don't think I've taken it out really since I've moved here. This is probably the first time. But yeah, this is my acoustic guitar, and I was kind of thinking the same thing of like, I really wish I could learn how to play this.
Yeah, dude, I'd love. I don't want to just buy like a keyboard. Like I'd want to have like an actual piano, but that's expensive and it takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
So it's not really something I can just be like, yeah, let me just put a piano in my room. No.
Yeah.
So I guess a keyboard would have to be but yeah, I'd love to be able to play either the piano or the guitar. That's my skill of choice.
Sweet. All right. Well, I know you have not read your phone or your text messages, but unfortunately, we've got to wrap this bad boy up. If you want to give us a follow, that would be absolutely incredible. Follow us all over social media at Chat It Up Sports, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, all that good stuff. Follow us there. This has been a fun episode, Joseph. I think in my mind, per usual, it's lasted longer than I would have anticipated it lasting.
Yep.
That's what she said. But anyways, um, we had fun with it. I'm glad that
Oh
you
my
indulged
gosh.
me in my fill in the blank situation. It was a fun game. I hope we get a chance to play this again. I'd like to kind of
Oh, for
maybe
sure.
do a little bit more of an evergreen situation and
Yeah.
kind of like think about some of those things and maybe with some of the other guys. But
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate you playing along.
Yeah, dude, it was a blast. I'm down. Anytime you wanna throw this out there, we can make it about anything. I'm
Yeah,
in. That was fun.
love it. For Joseph Guthrie, I'm Greg Larnard. Again, follow us all over social media. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Peace and love. We'll see you next time.